Midnight settles over the Morrison estate. Moonlight cuts through the medicine cabinet window. A shadow moves. Victoria Morrison stands in the hallway, silk robe catching pale light. In her hands, 2 pill bottles. Identical labels. Identical shapes. What's inside? Completely different. She opens the cabinet. Her fingers find the bottle marked Ethan Morrison, auditory treatment. The bottle helping her 7-year-old stepson hear again. The bottle showing results. She removes it, slides the replacement into place. Seconds. Victoria tucks the real medication into her robe pocket. Her lips curl into a smile that never reaches her eyes. "You'll never get better, sweet boy," she whispers to the empty room. Never. A light flickers in the hallway behind her. Victoria spins around, her heart hammers. Someone's there. But when she steps into the corridor, it's empty. Silent. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the tick of the grandfather clock. Still, she feels it. Eyes. Watching. She hurries back to her bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. In the shadows at the end of the hall, a figure stands perfectly still. Breathing. Waiting. Knowing. Morning light fills the Morrison dining room. Crystal. Silver. Perfection on display. Michael Morrison sits at the head of the table, 45 years old and exhausted from another business trip. He barely glances up from his newspaper. His son Ethan sits beside him, hearing aids in place, silent as always. Victoria glides in, radiant in cream cashmere, the picture of a devoted wife. Michael's mind drifts back 2 weeks, the doctor's voice, cautious but hopeful. "Mr. Morrison, Ethan is showing progress." His son had turned toward sound, had smiled at rain. After 3 years of silence, something was changing. Michael claps his hands near Ethan's ear now. Nothing. He leans forward, touches his son's shoulder gently. "Ethan, can you hear me?" The boy looks at him with those sad, dark eyes, shakes his head. Michael's chest tightens, his hand drops away. "But last week you—" "Maybe we hope too soon, darling," Victoria says, her voice dripping concern. But something flashes in her eyes, something that looks like satisfaction. Across the room, Grace Williams stands by the serving table. 30 years old, black, invisible in her grey uniform. She's watching Victoria's face, and what she sees makes her blood run cold. Grace has worked in wealthy homes before, 5 years in America, always in the background, always watching. But she's not just a maid. Back in Nigeria, she graduated top of her medical class. Here, her degree means nothing, just another immigrant starting over. She's been caring for Ethan for 3 weeks now, the boy who was finally starting to respond to sound, who turned his head when she dropped a tray last Tuesday, who smiled when she hummed near him. Then Victoria came back from Paris, and slowly, day by day, Ethan stopped responding. Grace takes Ethan's medication to him after breakfast. She holds the bottle in her hand. Something's different. The label looks identical, but the pills inside are a shade darker than she remembers. Medical training doesn't lie. She knows what she's seeing. That night, when the house sleeps, Grace takes 1 pill from the bottle, hides it in her pocket. In her small basement room, she crushes it, smells it, tests it with the basic chemistry knowledge every doctor learns. The scent is wrong. This isn't auditory treatment medication. It smells like benzodiazepine, a sedative, something that would suppress neural responses. Grace's hands shake. Someone is poisoning this child. She starts watching Victoria, really watching. The woman goes to the medicine cabinet 3 times a week, always when Michael is traveling, always locks the door. When she emerges, she carries a small designer purse. Once, Grace sees her pour pills into a toilet and flush. Grace needs to know more. She waits until Victoria leaves for the spa. Then she searches. Victoria's bedroom is immaculate, designer everything, but Grace finds the small safe behind a painting. It's not locked, careless, arrogant. Inside, 3 bottles, all marked with Ethan's name, all dated from the past 2 weeks, all unopened. These are the real medications, the ones Ethan should be taking. Grace pulls out her old phone, takes photos. Her heart pounds so loud she's sure someone will hear. She photographs everything, the bottles, the dates, the prescription labels. She hears footsteps. Victoria stands in the doorway. "Grace, you're cleaning my room today?" Grace forces her voice steady. "Yes, ma'am. Just finishing the dusting." Victoria's eyes sweep the room, land on the painting that's slightly crooked, the safe that's not quite closed. "Don't touch my personal items, understand?" "Never, ma'am." Victoria steps closer. "You know, I looked into your background. You used to be a doctor in Nigeria. Why are you cleaning houses now?" Grace meets her eyes. "My credentials aren't recognized here. I'm working while I study for the licensing exams. It takes time." "How convenient. A doctor who knows about medication, working in my home." Victoria's smile is ice. "I wonder what you've noticed." "Nothing, ma'am. I just care for Ethan." Grace meets Victoria's eyes steadily, doesn't look away. "Good, because making accusations without proof can be very dangerous, especially for someone on a work visa." Victoria's tone shifts to honey. "It would be a shame if immigration had questions about your status." The threat lands exactly as intended. After Victoria leaves, Grace sits on the edge of the bed. Her hands won't stop shaking. She knows what she saw. She has photos. But Victoria's right. No proof means nothing. And Grace has everything to lose. Her phone buzzes. A reminder. 3 years ago today, her sister Amara died, 16 years old, dead because a corrupt doctor in Lagos gave her fake medication to pocket the difference. Grace stares at the photo of Ethan on the nightstand, 7 years old, innocent, being slowly poisoned by someone who's supposed to love him. She opens her phone, searches for Dr. Sarah Miller, Ethan's physician. Types a message. "Dr. Miller, this is Grace Williams, Ethan Morrison's caregiver. I need to discuss something urgent about his treatment. Can we meet privately?" She hits send before fear can stop her. Grace knows the risks. Lose her job, lose her visa, lose her dream of becoming a licensed doctor in America. But she learned medicine for one reason, to save lives, not to stand by while a child dies. Not again. That night, Grace sits in her basement room. The ceiling is low, the walls are bare. A single bulb hangs from a wire. This is what 30 years old looks like when you're starting over in a foreign country. She holds a photograph. Her sister Amara, 16 years old forever, big eyes, bright smile, gone, 3 years now. Grace remembers the hospital in Lagos, the fluorescent lights flickering, Amara's hand in hers, getting colder. The doctor who'd taken their family's money and given them sugar pills instead of real medication, who'd pocketed the difference, who'd walked away rich while Amara stopped breathing. "I'm sorry," Grace had whispered. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save you." She'd been in her final year of medical school. She knew enough to recognize the fake medication, but not soon enough. Not in time. She thought America would be far enough away. It wasn't. To become a better doctor, to make sure no one else lost a sister because of greed. But her Nigerian medical degree meant nothing here. 5 years of working whatever jobs she could find. 5 years of studying for American licensing exams while cleaning other people's houses. 5 years of being invisible. And now she's facing the same choice again. Grace looks at herself in the small mirror, young face, tired eyes. She thinks about what she stands to lose. Her work visa depends on this job. Without it, she gets deported. Back to Nigeria, back to the place where Amara died, back to starting over with nothing. The licensing exams cost thousands of dollars she's been saving, money that took years to accumulate. If Victoria fires her, that dream dies too. She's 30 years old. She should be a doctor by now, should have a practice, should be saving lives. Instead, she's cleaning toilets and making beds for people who don't even see her. But then she thinks about Ethan, 7 years old, finally starting to hear again after 3 years of silence. And someone is stealing that from him. Someone is poisoning him slowly, keeping him disabled, keeping him trapped. For what? Money? Control? Grace's phone lights up. A text from her mother in Nigeria. "How is America? Are you closer to becoming a doctor?" She doesn't know how to answer. In her imagination, she hears Amara's voice. "You always said we learn medicine to save people. Don't let fear stop you now. Don't let paperwork and visas matter more than a child's life." Grace gets on her knees. She hasn't prayed in months, but tonight she needs to. "God, I came to America with a dream. I wanted to heal people, to make a difference. I lost my sister because I couldn't save her. Please don't let me lose this boy too." Her voice breaks. "I know the risks. I know what I might lose. But if I don't act, I lose myself. If I stay silent now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just someone who chose safety over a child's life." She stands, wipes her eyes, looks in the mirror again. This time, she sees something different. Not a maid, not an immigrant struggling to survive. A healer. Someone who took an oath. Someone who won't break it for anything. Grace opens her laptop, creates an encrypted email account, starts documenting everything she's seen, every date, every observation, every photo. If something happens to her, this evidence goes to the police automatically. She's not just fighting for Ethan anymore. She's fighting for the girl she was when Amara died, the girl who swore no child would die on her watch again, even if it costs her everything. 2 days later, Grace meets Dr. Sarah Miller at a coffee shop across town, far from the Morrison estate, far from anyone who might recognize them. Dr. Miller is 40 years old, one of the city's top pediatric specialists. She orders tea and listens, while Grace spreads photos across the table. Timeline of Ethan's decline. Photos of 2 different pill bottles. Documentation of Victoria's behavior. Grace's voice is steady now, professional. This is the doctor she trained to be. Someone is systematically poisoning that child. Dr. Miller studies the evidence. Her expression shifts from skepticism to horror. She sets her tea down carefully. "This is a serious accusation." "I know, but look at the facts. Ethan was improving. Then Victoria returns from Paris, and suddenly he's worse. The medication has been switched. I can prove it. You can't draw blood from a child without parental consent. Mr. Morrison will consent if you say Ethan needs routine testing." Dr. Miller sits back. "If I'm wrong, my career is over. The Morrison family has lawyers, money, power." Grace leans forward. "And if we do nothing, a child dies, or lives his whole life trapped by someone else's greed." Something in Dr. Miller's face changes. "My brother was disabled, cerebral palsy. I watched people treat him like he was invisible, like he didn't matter." She meets Grace's eyes. "If someone had been deliberately keeping him sick, I'd want someone to speak up." "Then help me." Dr. Miller nods slowly. "I'll call Mr. Morrison. Schedule the blood work. But Grace, if we find nothing, you need to be prepared for the consequences." I'm prepared to lose everything. I'm not prepared to let another child die. The next step is getting samples of the fake medication. Grace takes 3 pills from the bottle Ethan's currently using. She mails them to Dr. Miller's office in an unmarked envelope. No return address. No trail. Then she does something riskier. She buys a small recording device online. $79.99 she can't afford. But if Victoria confesses, Grace needs proof that will hold up. She plants it in Victoria's private study, behind a book on the shelf. It's voice-activated. Illegal to record someone without consent, but Grace is past worrying about legal niceties. This is about survival. Ethan's survival. Days pass. Grace watches Victoria like a hawk. The woman is getting nervous. She makes phone calls behind closed doors. Grace catches fragments. The boy is getting worse. Good. Michael is starting to accept it. Another call, 2 days later. In a few more months, the damage will be permanent. Then I'll have everything I deserve. Grace plays the recording back, once, twice, 3 times. Her hands clench into fists. This isn't just about money. Victoria wants Ethan permanently disabled, wants him dependent, wants control. But Victoria is also watching Grace. The tension in the house ratchets up. One evening, Victoria corners her in the hallway. Grace's pulse quickens, but she keeps her face neutral. "Grace, you've been here 3 weeks now?" "Yes, ma'am." "Where did you work before?" "The Parker family in Boston." 2 years. Victoria steps closer. Grace holds her ground. "You're quite young for this work. How old are you?" 30, ma'am. "Educated?" "I studied medicine in Nigeria." "A doctor working as a maid. Interesting." Victoria steps closer. "You know, I hired a private investigator, just routine background checks. He found your records. Top of your class in Lagos. Impressive." Grace forces herself to stay calm. "Thank you, ma'am. But your credentials aren't recognized here. You're taking exams, working your way through the system." Victoria's smile doesn't reach her eyes. That must be frustrating. All that education, all that knowledge, and here you are, cleaning my toilets. "I'm grateful for the work." "Are you? Because I wonder sometimes if you're watching me. If you think you see things that aren't there. If maybe your medical training makes you paranoid." The threat is clear. Victoria knows Grace suspects something. She's testing, pushing. "I just care for Ethan, ma'am. That's all." "Good, because making wild accusations could be very bad for your visa status, very bad for your dreams of becoming a doctor here." Victoria touches Grace's arm. Light, friendly, terrifying. "I'd hate to see you deported over a misunderstanding." After she walks away, Grace leans against the wall. Her heart hammers. Victoria knows. Maybe not everything, but enough. The recording device buzzes in her pocket. A notification. It caught something. Grace locks herself in the bathroom, puts in her earbuds, plays back the audio. Victoria's voice, crystal clear. "That nosy maid is getting suspicious. I need to move faster. Maybe it's time to increase the dosage. Make the damage irreversible before anyone figures it out." Grace stares at her reflection in the mirror. She has the evidence now. Victoria, in her own words, admitting she's poisoning Ethan, admitting she wants to cause permanent damage. But the recording is illegal, inadmissible in court. Unless Grace can get Victoria to confess in front of a witness. Someone credible. Someone who matters. Dr. Miller texts her. "Blood test results are back. We need to talk. Urgent." Grace's hands shake as she reads the next message. "You were right. Ethan's blood shows high levels of benzodiazepines. This is poisoning. We need to act now." Grace meets Dr. Miller in the hospital parking garage. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of oil and exhaust, a place where no one from the Morrison world would ever look. Dr. Miller hands her an envelope. Medical reports, lab results, official documentation on hospital letterhead. Ethan's blood contains diazepam, high concentrations. It's not just suppressing his auditory recovery, it's damaging his entire nervous system. Doctor, Miller's voice is tight with anger. The fake pills you sent me? They're sedatives mixed with ototoxic agents, drugs that specifically damage hearing. Grace feels sick. How long until the damage is permanent? If he keeps taking this, maybe 3 more months, then the neural pathways will be destroyed beyond repair. He'll never hear again. And the cognitive effects, Dr. Miller stops. Takes a breath. This isn't just about keeping him deaf. This is about destroying his brain function, making him dependent for life. Grace stares at the lab results in her hands. The paper trembles. We have to tell Mr. Morrison. But we don't have proof of who switched the medication. The illegal recording won't hold up in court. Victoria will claim someone else had access. That you're making false accusations because you want money or attention. Grace stares at the lab results. Scientific evidence that Ethan is being poisoned, but no legal proof of who's doing it. Then we make Victoria confess, in front of witnesses. How? Grace thinks about the woman she's watched for weeks, arrogant, confident, so sure of her power. I'll tell her I know, that I have proof. She'll try to threaten me, buy me off, and when she does, when she admits what she's doing, Mr. Morrison will hear every word. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. Grace looks at the medical reports in her hands. Evidence that a child is dying slowly. Evidence that someone who claims to love him is destroying him. Words feel too small now. Science has proven the crime, but only truth, spoken out loud in front of the right person, can stop it. Before Grace can confront Victoria, she needs to understand her. Not just what she's doing, but why. Grace reaches out through social media, finds connections, former household staff, people who worked for Victoria before she married Michael Morrison. A woman named Karen responds, 60 years old, Mexican-American. She worked for Victoria's first husband, James Whitmore. They video chat late at night. Karen sits in her small apartment in Phoenix. Behind her, photos of grandchildren, a crucifix on the wall. You want to know about Victoria? Karen's face is grim. I tried to warn people before. No one listened. I was just the help. She tells the story. Victoria Hayes married James Whitmore when she was 25. He was 55, a widower, wealthy from commercial real estate. Victoria was beautiful, charming, attentive, the perfect young wife. Then James had a stroke, paralyzed on his left side, needed round-the-clock care. Victoria played the devoted caretaker in public, but Karen saw what happened behind closed doors. She gave him the wrong dosages. I saw it. I checked the bottles. She was mixing up his blood pressure medication with sedatives, making him worse, not better. Did you report it? I tried. I went to his lawyer, his son from his first marriage. No one believed me. They said I was jealous of Victoria, that I was trying to cause trouble. Karen's voice breaks. James died 6 months after the stroke. Victoria inherited $5 million. Grace feels cold. This is her pattern. When I heard she married Michael Morrison, a widower with a disabled child, I knew. I tried to reach out, tried to warn him. But you know how it is. Who listens to a former maid over a beautiful woman with money? After the call, Grace digs deeper. Days later, she finds an opportunity. Victoria leaves her personal laptop open in the study while taking a phone call in the garden. Grace, as household staff with access to every room, sees an email open on the screen. It's from Michael's lawyer. The will. The terms are clear. If Ethan is healthy and independent, he inherits 80% of the estate when he turns 21. Victoria gets 20% and the house. But if Ethan requires lifelong special care due to disability, Victoria becomes his legal guardian and controls the entire $200 million fortune until Ethan turns 40. The math is simple. A healthy Ethan means Victoria loses everything she married into. A permanently disabled Ethan means she controls generational wealth for decades. Grace finds an email Victoria sent to an unknown recipient, dated 2 weeks ago. The boy is getting worse. Good. Michael is starting to accept it. In a few more months, the damage will be permanent. Then I'll have everything I deserve. Grace reads it 3 times. The coldness, the calculation. Victoria doesn't see Ethan as a child. She sees him as an obstacle, a problem to solve, a means to an end. Karen had said something else during their call. Victoria wasn't born evil, but somewhere along the way, she learned that money matters more than people. And once you believe that, you can justify anything. Grace thinks about this. She's met people like Victoria in Lagos, doctors who sold fake medication, officials who pocketed aid money meant for hospitals, people who chose wealth over humanity. But this is different. This isn't a stranger. This is a stepmother, someone who shares a home with this child, someone who tucks him in at night and kisses his forehead, and still poisons him in the morning. Grace closes her laptop. She knows what Victoria is now, not a monster from a horror story, just a human being who made a choice, who decided that her comfort mattered more than a child's future. And those, Grace thinks, are the most dangerous people of all, because they don't see themselves as evil. They see themselves as practical, as survivors, as people who are simply taking what they deserve. Grace sets the trap carefully. She texts Michael Morrison from an encrypted number. Come home early tonight. Emergency about Ethan. Don't tell Victoria. Wait in the study next to the living room. You need to hear something. Then she waits for Victoria. 10 o'clock at night. Michael is traveling, or so Victoria thinks. The house is quiet. Ethan sleeps upstairs. The staff has gone home. Grace finds Victoria in the living room, reading a magazine. Designer loungewear. A glass of wine. Grace's heart pounds. This is it. No turning back now. Ma'am, I need to speak with you about Ethan. Victoria doesn't look up. What about him? I know what you're doing with his medication. Now Victoria looks up, her eyes narrow. Excuse me? I know you're switching his pills. I know the bottles you hide in your safe. I know about the benzodiazepines. Grace keeps her voice steady. This is the moment. I have proof. Blood tests, photos, medical analysis. Victoria stands slowly. You went through my things. I did what I had to do to save a child. Save him? Victoria laughs, cold, sharp. From what? From me? You're making serious accusations, Grace, without any real proof. I have proof. Lab results showing Ethan's blood contains sedatives, photos of the real medication you've hidden. Documentation of everything. Victoria's expression shifts, from anger to calculation. How much do you want? What? Money. That's what this is about, right? You want a payout. $50,000? $100,000? I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Victoria steps closer. That's what you people don't understand. Everything has a price. Your silence, your loyalty, your moral high ground. I want you to stop poisoning Ethan. Victoria's mask cracks. Just for a moment. You don't understand. Michael will cut me out if Ethan gets better. The will, the estate, everything. I've given up my life for this family. You've given up nothing. You're destroying a child for inheritance money. He's not even Michael's priority. Victoria's voice rises. Emily will always be the ghost between us. Perfect dead Emily who gave him a son before she died. A perfect little goodbye gift. And me, I'm just the replacement, the second choice. The bitterness pours out now. Well, if I can't have his love, I'll have his money. Ethan will be taken care of. He'll have the best nurses, the best facilities. He just won't ever be independent enough to take what's mine. What's yours? He's a 7-year-old child. He's an obstacle to $200 million. The lights in the study click on. Michael Morrison stands in the doorway. His face is white. His hands shake. How long? His voice barely works. How long have you been poisoning my son? Victoria spins around. The color drains from her face. Michael, I didn't know you were home. Obviously. Michael looks at his wife like he's seeing her for the first time. How long? Victoria opens her mouth, closes it. No more words. No more excuses. Grace watches the moment truth destroys a marriage built on lies. Michael pulls out his phone. His hands shake so hard he can barely dial. 911. My wife has been poisoning my son. Victoria lunges for the phone. Michael steps back. His voice breaks. Officers need to come to 1520 Meadowbrook Estate. Now. Grace pulls out the folder she prepared. Medical records, lab results, photos of the switched medication, the timeline she documented. She hands it all to Michael. This is everything. Blood tests showing benzodiazepines in Ethan's system, chemical analysis of the fake pills, photos of the real medication hidden in her safe. Doctor Sarah Miller at Children's Hospital can verify it all. Michael stares at the evidence, his son's medical records, proof that the woman he married, the woman he trusted, has been systematically destroying his child. How long? He asks again. Grace answers. 3 weeks, since she came back from Paris, but based on patterns in his decline, possibly longer. Police arrive in 15 minutes. 2 officers, a detective. They take statements, photograph evidence. One officer reads, Victoria, her rights. Victoria Morrison, you're under arrest for attempted murder, child endangerment, and fraud. The handcuffs click shut. Victoria doesn't cry, doesn't beg. She just stares at Grace with pure hatred. You ruined everything. No, Grace says quietly. You did that yourself. They take Victoria away. The lights of the police car flash red and blue across the mansion's white columns. Michael calls Dr. Miller. We need to start detox immediately, whatever it takes. Dr. Miller arrives within the hour. She examines Ethan, still sleeping, innocent of the drama downstairs. We caught it in time. 2 to 3 months of proper treatment, and he should recover most of his hearing. The damage isn't permanent yet. Michael holds his son's hand, watches him breathe. I almost lost him. Grace stands by the door, invisible again. Just the help, but she knows what she did. She saved a child. The story hits the news the next morning. Wealthy stepmother, arrested for poisoning disabled stepson. The headlines write themselves. Grace's name appears nowhere. She requested anonymity. This isn't about her. But letters arrive, emails, messages from other household staff across the country. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for not staying silent. You gave us courage. 6 months later, the trial ends. Victoria Morrison sits in an orange jumpsuit. No designer clothes, no makeup. Her hair has gone grey at the roots. The courthouse is packed with reporters, curious onlookers, people who want to see a monster in human form. The charges are read: attempted murder, child endangerment, fraud, conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming. Grace's documentation, Dr. Miller's testimony, Karen's story about James Whitmore, the digital trail of Victoria's emails. The jury deliberates for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge hands down the sentence: 15 years in state prison, no possibility of parole. Victoria doesn't react, doesn't cry, just sits there, empty. Michael attends the sentencing. He needs to see it end, needs to know she can't hurt anyone else. Afterward, he visits her in the holding cell. One last time. He needs an answer to the question that's haunted him for 6 months. Did you ever love me, or was it always about money? Victoria looks at him for a long time. When she speaks, her voice is flat, hollow. I don't know anymore. Maybe I loved the idea of you more than you. No apology, no remorse for Ethan. Even now, Victoria sees herself as the victim. The system was unfair. She was just trying to survive, just taking what she deserved. Michael shakes his head, walks away. He'll never speak to her again. Some people, he learns, never see themselves clearly, never take responsibility. They blame the world for their choices. They call their cruelty survival. And that's the loneliest prison of all. 9 months after Victoria's arrest, Ethan Morrison is 11 years old. His hearing has recovered to 85%. He wears hearing aids, but he can hear his father's voice. The sound of rain, music, laughter. One morning, he calls out from his bedroom, "Dad?" Just one word. But Michael stands in the hallway and cries. 3 years of silence, then poison, then recovery. And now, his son's voice. Grace is still there, but everything has changed. Michael offered her the position of estate manager, triple salary, full health insurance, and something more important: "I'll pay for everything, all your licensing exams, all the fees, the review courses, whatever you need to become a doctor here." Michael's voice shakes when he says it. "You saved my son's life. Let me help you save others." Grace doesn't cry easily, but that day, she does. She passes her final licensing exam on a Tuesday morning, 7 years after leaving Nigeria, 7 years in America, 32 years old, and finally, officially, Dr. Grace Williams. Ethan is the first person she tells. He hugs her, signs congratulations in the sign language they learned together. Grace starts her residency at Children's Hospital. Pediatrics, Dr. Miller is her attending physician. They work together now. 2 women who refuse to stay silent. Michael steps back from his company. Not retirement, but balance. He takes Ethan to school, picks him up, attends every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment, every soccer game. He learns what Grace tried to teach him. Love isn't money. It's time, presence, showing up even when it's inconvenient. One evening, Grace and Michael sit in the kitchen. Ethan is upstairs doing homework. The house feels different now. Not cold, not silent, just a home. "I keep thinking about the people I didn't see," Michael says. "The security guard who greeted me every morning. I never learned his name. The cafeteria worker at my office, the parking attendant, all the people who were invisible to me." Grace pours tea. "You see them now. Because of you. You were invisible too. And you saved us anyway." Grace thinks about this, about being 30 years old in a foreign country, about cleaning toilets with a medical degree, about choosing to speak up when silence was safer. "In Nigeria, I learned something," she says. "Medical ethics isn't just about hospitals, it's about everywhere. When you see a child who needs help, you help. It doesn't matter if you're wearing scrubs or a maid's uniform, you're still a healer." Michael listens. Grace continues. "People ask me if I was brave. I wasn't. I was terrified. I almost lost everything. My visa, my dream, my future. She looks at her hands. But I kept thinking about my sister, about how she died because someone chose money over her life. I couldn't let that happen again. You talk about forgiveness in your hospital talks. Have you forgiven Victoria? Grace considers this. Forgiveness isn't for her. It's for me. It means I don't carry hate anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what she did was okay. It means I choose not to let her poison my life the way she poisoned Ethan. They sit in comfortable silence. Grace thinks about the journey, about being a black immigrant woman in America, about the assumptions people make, about being underestimated. You know what I tell young doctors now? She says. I tell them your credentials don't define you, your character does. I was a doctor when I was scrubbing floors. I was a doctor when no one believed me. Being a doctor isn't about the title. It's about the commitment to save lives, even when it costs you everything. Michael nods. Ethan calls you his guardian angel. I'm not an angel. I'm just someone who remembered why I went to medical school. Not for prestige, not for money. But because when I was a little girl, I watched my grandmother die from preventable disease. And I swore no one else would die on my watch, if I could help it. She looks at Michael. Your wife tried to make Ethan disabled for money, but money without humanity is just paper. A house without love is just walls. Success without compassion is just empty achievement. What changed for you? Michael asks. After all this? Grace smiles. Small, genuine. I learned that being invisible can be powerful. People underestimate you, don't see you coming, and then you change everything. 3 years have passed since that midnight when Victoria switched the medication. Ethan is 14 now. He plays soccer, gets good grades, argues with his father about curfew like any normal teenager. His hearing isn't perfect, but it's enough. More than enough. Grace is Dr. Williams now. Not the maid, not the help, a pediatrician with her own practice. But she still visits the Morrison house every Sunday for dinner. Because some bonds go deeper than employee and employer, some families are chosen, not born. Michael runs a foundation now. Grace's voice. It provides legal support, medical advocacy, and financial assistance for immigrant workers, household staff, and caregivers who witness abuse or neglect. Because Grace wasn't the first to see something wrong, she was just the first who had the resources to act. Last month, the foundation helped a nanny report a family starving their elderly grandmother, helped a driver expose financial fraud, helped a housekeeper document child abuse. 23 cases in 3 years. 23 times someone invisible became someone who changed everything. Ethan asked Grace recently, was there ever really a magic stone, like in the story? Grace laughed. No, honey. No stone. Just evidence. Just courage. Just deciding that one child's life mattered more than my safety. But people call it a miracle. The miracle wasn't medicine. It was choosing to act when I could have stayed silent. So here's the question this story asks you. Who in your life have you stopped seeing? The person who delivers your packages, who cleans your office, who serves your coffee, who watches your children, who parks your car. Do you know their names, their stories, their dreams? And if you saw something wrong, would you speak up? Even if it cost you your job, your security, your comfortable silence? Grace was a doctor scrubbing floors. You might be a teacher, a lawyer, a parent, a student, but the question is the same. When you witness injustice, do you look away because it's easier? Or do you step forward because it's right? Ethan didn't need a miracle. He needed someone who remembered that every child matters, that disability doesn't make you disposable, that money doesn't buy the right to destroy lives. Victoria sits in prison today, 12 more years to go. She still doesn't understand what she did wrong, still sees herself as the victim of an unfair system. But Ethan runs across a soccer field, hears the crowd cheer, hugs his father after the game. That's the real ending. Not revenge, not punishment. Just a boy who gets to live, who gets to hear, who gets to grow up because someone refused to stay silent. Grace didn't have a magic stone. She had something better. She had medical knowledge, moral courage, and the belief that one person, even invisible, even powerless, can change everything. So the question isn't about Grace anymore. It's about you. Who will you choose to see today? Who will you choose to help? When will you decide that doing what's right matters more than staying comfortable? The stone was never real. But the courage was, the knowledge was, the commitment to save a life, even when it costs you everything. And that's the only magic we need to change the world. One brave choice at a time. Your move.